Super Rugby round number 10, folks. All the teams are back in action this week in what is the Anzac round. As you can see on the board, as many Trans-Tasman fixtures have been arranged for this 10th round as possible. We'll go through the lineup, some of the changes, a few stats. You guys can let us know your thoughts on how the games are going to go for round 10. First game, Crusaders up against the Rebels, with the Crusaders sitting in 12th and the Rebels in 4th. Most would have picked it to be probably the other way around going into the start of the season. The Crusaders coming off that tough loss to the Force. They have made some changes. George Bower's going to start, but the biggest news is probably in the second row with Scotty Barrett being back. His presence will certainly make a bit of a boost to this Crusaders side, who have been struggling. He's been out with a finger injury for a while, so his return is a welcome one. And then Cullen Grace, 50th Super Rugby cap for him in the number 6 jersey. Elsewhere, Ethan Blackadder switches to 7. Rivez Rehana going to get a start at 10 this week, and Hiramaya Murray gets a start on the left wing with Johnny McNichol at fullback. So there are a fair few changes to the Crusaders as they try to find something of a winning formula for the Rebels. Man, 5-3, three-game winning run. It's all coming up roses for the Rebels thus far. If they can hang on to a playoff spot, they'll be making a bit of history for themselves. And they've been able to keep things pretty stable. Josh Canham coming into the second row is one of the few changes to the side. Also, Alex Murphy getting a start at hooker rather than being on the bench this week. They continue on with Taniela Tupou in that bench role to add a bit of impact. And they are also bolstered by the return of a big man. In their case, it is Rob Leota, but he is just on the bench for this one as they kind of ease him back into action. The other Friday game, also Trans-Tasman, sees the Waratahs taking on the Chiefs. The Waratahs are off the bye, and they've only been able to beat one team this season. That's the Crusaders. They've beaten them twice. They haven't been able to beat anybody else, so they'll need to change that if they are going to get past that 9th spot they're in now and get themselves into some playoffs contention. They have got Ned Hannigan at number 8 this week. He's switching positions from the second row. It's an all-new second row with Amasatero and Sinclair starting this week, but the front row is unchanged. Tristan Riley switches wings with the return of Mark Nawani-Tawase on the right wing, and Joey Walton swaps places with Ize Parise in the midfield. For the Chiefs, they have kind of tinkered a wee bit, also off the bye, coming off that loss to the undefeated Hurricanes, thus far undefeated. So a 5th spot for the Chiefs at the minute, which is maybe a little bit less than some people thought they would do, but the season is by no means over just yet. Kalen Boshier is going to captain the side from number 7 with Luke Jacobson being out injured. Also, Jimmy Tupou gets a start alongside George Dyer, who's also up from the bench. Both those guys were off the pine in their last game, but the back line is unchanged. Ratima, D-Mac, Nana Saturo, Paul Hippie, ALB, Narawa, and Stevenson. Really, really deadly looking Chiefs backline, and as I said, unchanged. Now, in the Anzac spirit, if you want to see some of the kind of All Blacks in their own words, one guy who you can certainly hear from is Caleb Clark. He had a massive impact on the international scene when he first came on back in those COVID years, playing against the Wallabies. He certainly had a heck of an introduction. He's one of the kind of featured All Blacks in this In Their Own Words series, where they talk about kind of what it means to be an All Black and what it meant for Caleb Clark in particular to kind of come in and be himself, not kind of stay within his own shell. You got Artie Savia talking, Dane Coles, and a bunch of other guys, Bodie Barrett. So I invite you to check that out down in the description. All Blacks in Their Own Words, including a guy, Caleb Clark, who had that kind of massive Anzac impact, like I mentioned. Saturday games, DRUvMOA taking on Moana Pacific is the only kind of non-Anzac game, but these two sides are building up that little bit of a rivalry between each other. The DRUvMOA lost that last game at home again to the Hurricanes, but they've just been beating everyone. They will certainly be looking to rectify that, because they are in 7th, which is a little bit of a precarious spot in terms of playoffs. They have made a few changes from the bench, especially with Togi Tama, with Darren Alangi, with Matawalu, with Armstrong Ravula. All these guys getting promoted from those bench roles to get starts this week. And also Rakuro gets a start on the left wing, having not been in the 23 last week. Also Miramira and Dolokoto on the bench come into the 23. For Moana Pacifica, remember, coming off the bye, but a fortnight ago they had that tight win over the Reds. They've kept things stable. I guess if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you had a wing lineup, keep it consistent. So same front row as how they played the Reds, same second row, same back row, same 9-10 combo, same midfield. It's the same 15. for the Moana Pacifica boys. They have got a couple of changes though on the bench with Inisi coming in. It's Lotu Inisi in the number 20 jersey. Jonathan Taumatene coming in, the backup halfback, and Neria Formai coming in as well. The Moana Pacific guys just need to score some more tries. They've still got 3 wins, which is impressive. They are in 8th, which is the playoffs, but they've scored the fewest tries in Super Rugby thus far. So we'll see if they're able to kind of add a few in this round 10 game. Brumbies Hurricanes is one of these kind of top of the table clashes, but the Brumbies will be looking in Canberra to do a bit better than they did last week at Eden Park. That was billed as a kind of top of the table clash as well between them and the Blues, and the Brumbies got fair hammered. So they'll need to make Canberra a bit of a different hunting ground and see if they can be the first side to knock off the Hurricanes. They are bolstered by the return of Alan Alatoa. He was captain of the side not that long ago, but he's been out on the sidelines for an extended period. So him being back straight in at tight head is a massive bit of big news. Also, Rory Scott comes in at number 7. And then also Len Ikitau into the midfield at 13. So a couple of Wallabies really adding a bit of depth to that ranks in the Brumbies. For the Hurricanes, they continue with this rotation. There was a bit of talk last week that there was too much rotation, that they would disrupt their game plan over in Fiji. Still managed to get a pretty bloody decent win. So for the Canes, rotation remains the order of the day. Numia up from the bench. Lomax back into 23 at tight head. Delaney up from the bench. Braden Yose back into the 23. Brett Cameron back into the 23. Peter Munga Jensen back into the 23. And Ruben Love up from the bench. So many, many changes to this Hurricane starting side. But like I said, it hasn't really been a problem for them thus far. They seem to be a pretty well-oiled machine no matter who is playing. And yeah, they'll go into Canberra, you would think, pretty well full of confidence. Penultimate game sees the Highlanders taking on the Force. Both these sides really need a win because they are both sitting outside the playoffs. 10th spot for the Highlanders, 11th spot for the Force. They've both got just their 2 wins. Although they're in kind of different positions in that the Force got their first win over the Crusaders in a decade last week, whereas the Highlanders couldn't even score a point. So they'll be looking to do substantially better now that they are back at home, the Highlanders. And they have made changes. Mitch Dunshea will get his Highlanders debut, so congratulations to him. Also Fabian Holland back into the 23, so it's an all-new locking duo for them. And then Reece Patchell, who's been missing out for the last few weeks. He's not been on their injury list, but he's back. He initially, at the start of the season, seemed to have a bit of chemistry with Folau Fakatava, so we'll see if they're able to kind of recapture a bit of that. Elsewhere, Connor Garden-Bashop switches to the left wing, and Jacob Ratumaita-Vukinipkins is back in his more familiar fullback spot for the Force. Kind of similar to Moana Pacifica. If it got a win in the last game, keep it consistent, and that is what they have done. They have promoted Isaac Rodda from that bench role as he was easing back from injury into the starting role in the second row, so that is a change. And also Marley Pierce gets a start at loose head this week, but otherwise the squad is pretty much the same. Chase Tia being on absolute fire on that left wing, so he continues on and certainly one of the guys to watch. A few changes on the bench with Jeremy Williams, Josh Bartlett, and Feliti Kaitu'u also returning. And for the last game, the Reds taking on the Blues, the battle of the two colour-based teams, red and blue. For the Reds, bit of a Jekyll and Hyde season, 4-4. They lose some of the games you expect them to win and maybe win some of the games you expect them to lose. Young side, they've got Jordi Pataya out for a long time, for the season actually, injured, so that's a bit of an unfortunate one, but Josh Fluke replaces him at number 13. Same front row, changing the second row with Angus Blythe getting a start, and then Suliasi Vunivalu, who had that wicked step, if you can call it that, against the Highlanders last week. He continues on the right. And for the Blues, they've also gone with a little bit more rotation. They've got Vikena getting a start at hooker this week. Ta'avao also promoted from the bench. Talea switches wings from right to left to make way for AJ Lamb. Caleb Clark is on the bench. He's been kind of nursing a bit of a calf injury, so he's been on lighter duties. So it is a bench start for him this week, and then James Thompson potentially gets his Super Rugby debut from the bench. But there you go, folks, back in full action. You guys let us know your thoughts on how things are going to go. Check out the All Blacks in their own words down in the description, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.